We make voting and broader civic engagement fun, easy, and social using behavioral economics so that young people actually do it. Getting out the vote has looked pretty much the same for the last half century. Traditional strategies like canvassing, phone banking, and direct mail are cost inefficient and they don't reach young people at all. Billions of dollars are wasted each year. Motivote is a digital platform that gives organizations a cost-efficient and innovative way to increase turnout and civic participation in their networks. And this is how it works. You form a team of friends, you commit to vote in an election, and come election day, you verify you voted with a selfie. In some cases, we let you back up that commitment with a financial pledge that keeps everyone in your team on the hook for voting. We use gamification and social accountability to curate and incentivize all of the steps that you need to do to get ready to vote, creating a one-stop shop of resources. And as players engage, they earn points and prizes from corporate sponsors. This is putting to work best practices in terms of getting people to do the things that we know we should do or intend to do, but don't always do on our own. Things like going to the gym or saving for retirement. And this is a tremendous opportunity. There are $11 billion spent in presidential election cycles. There were $5 billion spent in 2017, the last off year, and the share of that in digital where we sit is growing rapidly. Our business model is a B2B tech-enabled service. Our customers are any organization that benefits from having more young people vote, colleges, nonprofits, campaigns, companies, and they pay a licensing fee for access to data insights and customization. And among the other efforts in this space, we uniquely gamify the end-to-end process. We have a built-in multiplier effect through our team-based accountability model, and we provide value beyond a specific election cycle or campaign. And while we're starting in politics, there is so much room to grow. Think social accountability for volunteering, event attendance, and small dollars fundraising. And companies can use Motivote as an internal-facing employee engagement tool, and the employee engagement and wellness space is about a $70 billion market. Since just launching our first pilots this summer, we've already secured our first 3 paid partnerships, teamed up with 30 corporate sponsors nationwide, and increased our user base by tenfold. And we've been proving out that our model works. 84% of active Motivote users verify their vote with us, and that's about 3 times the national average. Our founding team brings 20 years of experience in nonprofits, politics, and student organizing, so we deeply understand the problem and are able to work nimbly to fix it. And we are so thrilled to be making America vote again.
I love it. I want to make America vote again too. That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about your users? How many people have signed up? What is the cost to acquire these customers? What's your strategy around that?
Yeah, so we had 2,700 signups for the midterm elections, our largest test yet. That was up from 250 in our pilot right before that in September. We've been attempting a number of different user acquisition attempts to see what works best and was most cost efficient. Where we're leaning into now is what we call a grass tops to grassroots model, which is where we partner with an organization that has a vested interest and an infrastructure for mobilizing members of their community, and this is a tool that they use to increase their engagement and help them follow through on election day, as well as a broader realm of civic engagement activities.
Hi, great job. How do you keep users engaged all year round? Because this is a very episodic thing, right? So like how do you, like they have to remember to come back to the app every time? Yeah, how does that work?
So we don't want to be tied as a business or as an engagement tool to elections that happen once a year or every 2 or 4 year cycle, because that's a trap we fall into with civic engagement more generally. We think about it when there's an election. So while we're starting with voting, we are building out a wraparound civic engagement model where it's not just social accountability for showing up on election day, it's keeping in tune with what your representatives are doing, it's making those phone calls, it's attending the city hall events, it's all of the things that we need to do in the interim. And this has actually come from our first paid customers who expressed an interest in using our model long term with them. So that's really our next step for 2020 and beyond.
Hey, great job. I was curious to hear, I think you estimated the market size at something like $11 billion a year. I was curious to kind of hear where that number came from and kind of more about just like, because I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding the market size and these sorts of things.
Yeah. So that is the money spent by campaigns and PACs on getting Americans to vote. And it's true that right now a lion's share of that goes to television ads. But where we see the market moving is we see the spend on digital as rapidly increasing. We saw 800% in the last cycle. And what we want to do as Motivote is position ourselves as the best way to spend your digital dollars. And as millennials and Gen Zs become essentially the largest voting bloc, we're going to see the people making those spending decisions. They're shifting to digital because we know that young people aren't watching advertisements on broadcast TV.
Do you have any, so your customers have a vested interest in having their users vote. Do you have any data that shows like what that gap is between like, oh, I wish I could vote, but I just don't get motivated to do it, or actually I don't want to vote? Or
Yeah, so Motivote actually started as a grad school capstone project. So before we built anything, tested anything, spent a year doing hundreds of customer discovery interviews, as well as diving into the academic literature. And what surfaced for us was the idea of behavioral micro barriers, which are the real or imagined stupid little things that get in the way of us taking action, separated out from structural barriers, and there's a lot of other great organizations working on that. So of the hundreds of young people that we talked to, we saw about 60% of the time it was things like, I'm registered in the state where I went to college and didn't request the absentee ballot on time, or it wasn't on my calendar and I had an exam the next day. So there's a real intention action gap that causes a pain point that we're solving with our behavioral economic model.